Hi, welcome back to the show. My name's Nate Taves. This is the second origin story of the Moviecase podcast series. This one, you hear the very beginning of it. And I've got a special guest with me. How are you, Dad?
Good, Nate. Glad to be part of the show.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on here, finally. I trust I won't be driving you too nuts. I mean, we've gone over these stories time and again just in daily conversations.
Well, it's always a little different when you're being recorded.
That's true. Yeah, my confusing cues, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess for the record, your name is Andy Taves, right?
Andy Taves, that is correct. You learned well.
Yeah, thanks. I only read it about half a dozen times before the show. Otherwise, I'd be lost without it. Anyway, we're going to talk about the kind of the origin story of me being Moviecase. So, what was your first inkling that I was going to like movies?
Well, I guess it was just that you showed a lot of interest in things that were very visual, cartoons and bright colors, anything that was moving, and then it really became apparent with you watching TV shows. They were one of the things that really kept your interest, and you were just fascinated by them. So then we started to, let you watch things that were a little bit longer, like hour-long shows, like Disney shows, things like that. And those held your interest, and then from there it expanded into movies. So you became real interested in movies and just were delighted following the stories and watching the characters and learning about the storylines and all. So at that point we had a pretty good idea that you would be entertained by things that were visual.
So it was the visual stuff, and then I guess it developed into story following it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it became kind of an issue because, frankly, I'd be watching the stuff with you, and I got sick of watching Disney things. So at the time, and this is, I guess you could say the late 80s, there was a lot of just garbage out there in terms of movies and entertainment and all, and it was too old, too R-rated type things to be shown a young kid. So I reverted back to kind of things that I thought was safe from my childhood, old TV shows, old movies, things like that, where there was a certain amount of imagination involved. Not everything had to be explicit. And so fortunately, those things kind of resonated with you, and you were able to make that connection, and I think it helped develop your imagination as well. But it was just easier for me, frankly, to pick older stuff that I was familiar with that I thought you'd enjoy, rather than trying to weed through the things that were coming out at that time that were, for the most part, inappropriate. But I still goofed up a few times with Batman and things like that I thought were going to be great, and as it turns out, they were just a bit much at the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll say this: the Batman stuff was great and is great. The Tim Burton Batmans, but the Joker still scares the shit out of me.
That's the power of Nicholson, and that image stuck with it for a long time. And interestingly, when I think back on it, there were you picked up there's a scene in that Batman with Nicholson where he's dangling from the edge of a building just before he falls to his death, and he does kind of a subtle little jaw movement with his lower jaw, rocking it from side to side, and you picked up that.
I can't do it anymore because I'll rock.
Well, you picked up that motion, and you used to do it in times of anger and all. And when I look back, there was also what was the movie that had, it was a cartoon type thing with Prince John. It was maybe a
Robin
movie.
Hood.
Yeah, and there was a scene there where he was like banging his fist on something, but it looked without the props. And if a human was doing it, it looked like somebody was dribbling a basketball, an imaginary basketball.
Oh, you know what it was? He was trying to hit the snake with a bat.
Well, sometimes you would do that just for fun, and your mother and I just could not figure out what the hell you were trying to do. And then one day we happened to be watching the Robin Hood cartoon again with you, and that's when we made the connection that it was you imitating Prince John character. So that was a revelation that had us baffled for a while, but kind of figured it out.
For those who don't know, Robin Hood is a 1973 cartoon that the Walt Disney Studios put out, and it had what's his name? Phil Harris as Little John, and Little John's a bear, and it is basically a replica of his.
Well, didn't Phil Harris go on to play in Jungle Book another bear too?
Well, that was back in '67.
Well,
but yeah.
Okay, so I guess looking backwards, he was a bear of a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he certainly looked at Toby, the big height and weight that he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, him against Jack Betty.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a big boy.
Yeah. Which actually brings us nicely into the next thing. One of my earliest memories of television is the Batman cartoons.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I like those. They were less corny than the '60s series with Adam West, and they were interestingly illustrated. The storylines were good, always triumphed over evil, and it was before writers and I guess the comic book writers as well got a hold of Batman and decided they had to show his dark side. This was all just kind of Bruce Wayne being the wealthy playboy type guy fighting crime at night, and so the storylines were pretty good. The illustration was good. It was colorful. It moved well. It was a half-hour show, and it kept your interest, and it kept mine too. So that was another thing we had in common that I could watch with you.
Yeah, I remember we also made a big excursion to the theater when Batman: Mask of the Phantasm came out.
Yeah. That was actually, I think we were both looking forward to that. So it was just an extended version of that same cartoon series, but they expanded it out to a 1-hour movie or hour-and-a-half movie or something.
Yeah, it was 75 minutes, I believe it was.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I think that was 96 that we're talking. And also one of my first recollections of film in theater is The Little Mermaid, and I believe I saw that with Mom.
Yeah, I believe you did see that with Mom. Well, subsequently, I saw it with, I think, both of you. And, yeah, I mean, for a while we got into a lot of the Disney characters. And my favorite in that one, I think, was the Crab.
Sebastian?
Yeah. And
Ben Wright.
And then later on, when Lion King came out, it was Rafiki.
Yeah.
So
the past cat hurt.
Yeah. So, I started to get. I guess you were maturing, and I was retro. I was going backwards, slipping back into Disney stuff as I grew older. So, but it was interesting. It was fun stuff. Good time.
Yeah. I mean, I remember seeing The Lion King with you, and that was great. But the scene, I remember we got in there a little bit late, but the scene that we got in there was Scar when you first see him at his rock hideout with the hyenas.
Yeah.
That was the scene we walked in on.
Yeah.
And the one where he's plotting the demise of Mustafa.
Simba's father, yeah.
Yeah, Mustafa. And then subsequently in Willow Hill years, which is years and years after that, you kind of find out that it's actually a Shakespeare play was the basis for The Lion King.
Well, I think a lot of the story themes that Shakespeare worked with have taken different forms. And when you think about all the different iterations of a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, or the Merchant of Venice, any of that stuff, it's all somehow been rehashed and reformulated because they're classic tales of the human experience, and they just find ways to update them. And sometimes they credit Billy Shakespeare, and sometimes they don't. Most times they don't.
Right, as in Lion King.
Right.
But if you backtrack a second, the Sebastian the Crab. I don't know if you know this, but Ben Wright was the guy who voiced the crab.
Oh.
And he was on the radio show, The New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, with Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. And he played both Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson on that radio show after Nigel Bruce and Basil Rathbone left.
Well, I must have kept him busy. He's lucky they didn't have any stories surrounding a crab, or it really would have been going crazy.
Yeah, he would have been boiled on that one.
Yeah.
Sorry I said that. Now, let's see here. Going to my notes, my recollection is a lot of our time when we weren't going out to eat or playing board games and stuff was spent in front of television during the cartoons and movies. Do you remember any of the early stuff that you got me doing, like the connections between, let's say, James Cagney in one movie and somebody else in another?
Well, I mean, as you were getting older, you were able to, discern a more sophisticated storyline, and again, you were maturing rapidly in the sense that you could make sense of a storyline, follow it, and remember it. And in the older movies, I think good and evil were exaggerated a bit, so it became easier to discern, who was the good guy, who was the bad guy. In the old days, the good guys always wore the white hats, kind of thing. But in the Cagney stuff and some of the Bogart stuff, things like that, it was once again refreshing to have movies that I didn't have to worry about the language in them, depiction of violence or anything like that. I mean, you look at some of the Cagney things where people got mowed down with machine guns, but nobody ever bled.
Right, like in what was it? Angels with Dirty Faces.
Yeah.
The cop on the sidewalk with the machine gun keeps firing after getting children full of.
Yeah. It was a bit much when you took the half a grapefruit and jammed it in Mom's face, but it showed that you were following the movie line anyway. And that was easier to figure out than that basketball thing with Prince John. So.
Yeah, just because I didn't recite Cagney's lines before. That worked for. I wish it was a wishing well, so I could tie a bucket around it and sink it. That was a goodie. I love that one.
Yeah.
And thankfully it's on Blu-ray now.
Well, at some point they're going to bring all of his stuff, and they'll bring all of it to Blu-ray. When they find, because as the copyright's way down and the people die off, the royalties they don't have to pay quite as much. I don't believe.
Well, no, that's the thing though, is that people buy and sell catalogs of movies, and most of his movies are cataloged through Warner Brothers, so they own rights to most of his stuff. But there's a few of them that are in public domain, like Blood in the Sun, Great Guy, Something to Sing About, Time of Your Life, and a handful of others.
Well, and that's just you being the Moviecase and knowing all that stuff. I think for the most part, even though you went to Burlington College and that kind of honed some of your interest, for the most part, you've been pretty much self-taught just through your own interest in the movies. So it was not necessarily a formal education in cinema. It was more like just you learning and absorbing the information like a sponge based on your interest in the genre.
Well, my favorite thing to tell people, and this is true, is that when girls in 97, 98 were looking up pictures of Leonardo DiCaprio to glue to their binders, I was making the connection between Abbott and Costello, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, those guys.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, I would have been a little upset if you were pasting Leo DiCaprio to your school binder. Fortunately, that didn't happen,
Yeah, I like Titanic, but not that much.
Yeah, well, that helped him rise to fame, and he himself has come quite a ways. I think he's really come into his own as an actor now. So, back then he was just kind of like the little teen heartthrob kind of thing, but now he's just an actor of some substance.
Right, but I mean, even if you go back to something like What's He Gilbert Grape for one of those, his early stuff.
Well, he did show some promise early on, but then again, in like Gilbert Grape, he was playing off of Depp, who came a long way since Jump Street.
Right.
So.
Right. And those are a couple of films I can't stand, the Jump Street films.
Well, the new ones. Yeah.
And it's not because somebody didn't put effort into them. It's just it's not my taste.
Yeah. Well, now who's Jonah? Is it
Jonah Hill?
Yeah, Jonah Hill. He kind of, to me, hit his pinnacle with, The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Before that, he was always kind of a joke, and I hate to see him sliding back into it with this 21 Jump Street twice.
Yeah, 22 Jump Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd say this, that to me, as an actor, he reached a good place with Moneyball.
Yeah.
And
he was nominated for that, wasn't he?
Yeah, best supporting.
Yeah.
And then there was obviously Wolf of Wall Street, where he did well.
Yeah.
I hope he continues to make those kind of films, but I guess he took a substantial cut in his salary to do Wolf of Wall Street. He worked for the bare minimum.
Well, but it was a great vehicle for him.
Right.
And that will help him, I think, in the long run. I don't know what he was thinking when he went back and did the Jump Street thing again.
Yeah, so I think it was a comedy, it was fun kind of thing. He enjoys it.
Well, I would never begrudge an actor for making a lot of money to have fun.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, look at Kevin Smith. He keeps coming back to the Clerk series with Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson.
Yeah, but to me, is that because it's safe and easy for him, or is it a lack of creativity? I mean, we saw Red State, and he was trying to call it a horror movie. It wasn't that. I don't know what the hell it was. It was a disappointment is what it was, I thought.
Well, I'll defend him in the sense that
he gave his wife work.
Well, there's that, but I was going to say that the acting was strong in it. The story, not exactly clear what you're supposed to be thinking from beginning to end in terms of who you're rooting for or anything, but the acting is strong. I couldn't take my eyes off of John Goodman the entire time.
Yeah, well, I mean, all it would have taken is a Christopher Walken character someplace in there, and I probably would have liked it. Just something odd to carry it through. Yeah,
which we'll take a little side diversion here and say we just saw Jersey Boys.
Yep, yeah, thoroughly entertaining movie, and Walken, just a couple of times that he's on screen, he just steals the show. That the one line about "stay out of my bathroom" is perfect, and you got to see Jersey Boys to appreciate the facial expression and the context of him saying that. But and we won't ruin it on this podcast, but I would recommend that movie. I sat there with just like a grinning fool throughout. So.
Well, you weren't the only one. Just about everybody had a grin plastered on their face.
It was just an entertaining movie. I mean, the music was good, the acting was good. Interestingly, I've never seen the play, although I've been to Vegas a couple of times and it's been playing out there. I just haven't had the opportunity to see it. But I think Eastwood did a great job of capturing the essence of live performance on film.
Well, that's the other interesting part is he claims, and I'd say claims because I have no way of verifying this, but he claims that they sang everything live, so they had some group playing just off camera and then they were singing live.
Well, when they were doing Les Miserables, they had that all singing live, and look at the power that those performances had.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, but they had the earpieces there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the earpieces that they had, I think, was just a very simple, like, piano piece, and then they went back and they filled in the orchestration part.
Yep.
And didn't they grab a couple of Oscars out of that? There was Anne Hathaway got one, and I think Hugh Jackman got one.
No, Hugh Jackman did not get one.
He didn't get that.
No, he was nominated. But
who did he lose to?
I can't remember. Let's see, 2012.
He did such a good performance, we can't even remember who the hell actually won, but...
Yeah. No, it was somebody else, but it was like, God, he got robbed on that one.
He did. He did get robbed. But we've seen the Academy rob a bunch of people as the years went by.
Right, Cary Grant, Hitchcock.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you know, nothing makes you so famous as to die. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least they got Lifetime Achievement Awards.
Yeah, it's like kissing your sister that feels good, but there's no thrill. That's it's nice to be recognized, but I think they would have rather had the Oscar rather than something like that, that kind of an award.
Right. Right. Well, I'm hoping that they give it to Bradley Cooper sometime soon.
He's building a nice body of work. He's been able to do everything. I mean, Hugh Jackman to me right now is one of the best out there, but Bradley Cooper certainly can do comedy, can do drama. He may have gotten robbed with Silver Linings.
Yeah. I think he was.
Yeah.
That was a tough one because it was Silver Linings and Les Mis that were next to each other, and there was like...
Well, and then we were rooting for losers, right?
Yeah.
Well, if Hugh doesn't get it, we know that Bradley will, and then who the hell won it? I don't know.
Yeah. But getting back to the classics.
Sure.
I want to bring this point up. I'm probably the last part of the generation that can say that they grew up watching Abbott and Costello, the Marx Brothers, the Three Stooges.
To be honest with you, I think that generation ended before you. You just kind of snuck under the wire or something with that.
Oh, no, I was going to say on television it was the Saturday morning.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I suppose. But, I mean, you were young when they did it because they got rid of that long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, but I still have the memory of sitting there watching those.
You remember going to a party with me and coming home with your mother, so...
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't talk about that one.
Yeah, let's move on. Bad joke.
Yeah, that's what she said. Anyway, yeah, but I mean, I remember the early, like, Abbott and Costello stuff that I remember seeing was Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer, Boris Karloff.
Yeah.
Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. Abbott and Costello Humpback Ghost. And Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein were the four that they kept running. The Marx Brothers, it was always, like...
Coconuts,
Duck Soup, at the Opera.
Casablanca. Night in Casablanca.
Yeah, but they never really ran that. It was more like the early Marx Brothers stuff. Duck Soup, Horse Feathers, Monkey Business.
Yeah.
Those things. Three Stooges, they ran mostly Shemp and Curly stuff.
Well,
and then
petered out. Well, no one wanted to introduce you to, Shemp was bad enough, and Curly Joe, forget about it.
But interestingly, Shemp was the first Stooge.
Yeah, but not the best. I mean, well, there were the Three Stooges, but Curly's the one that really carried it. It's like getting into who played the better Bond.
Right.
I mean, I was always partial to Sean Connery. My second became Pierce Brosnan, but now Daniel Craig's doing a pretty good job. I think everybody that came in the middle, sorry Roger Moore, it just never did it for me.
Yeah, see, I guess I appreciate each one separately, but yeah,
Even George Lazenby?
surprisingly, yes, even George Lazenby. But I'm partial to like Moonraker and that kind of thing.
The villains and the gizmos carried a lot of those movies. And some of those stunts, I mean, there was a stunt, I don't remember which Roger Moore movie it was, but they're flying a plane through an airplane hangar and closing the doors, and in order to make it through the second door, well, yeah, he has to go end on end.
Yeah, turn sideways.
Yeah, and make it, and just made it through. And Jaws, you know, what was that guy's name? He's old now, maybe even dead now. Big guy. Now he's got the guy that played Jaws. You know, the metal Jaws. I can't think of his name. Anyway, he was a memorable character with it. You know, then the old stuff with Sean Connery. You know, there were memorable characters in that with Odd Job and all. And now we've seen Blofeld from the Daniel Craig Casino movie. Is now one of our favorite creatures in Hannibal on TV.
Yeah. That's my favorite, Casino Royale, and that in and of itself was done a couple of times. One of which was with Peter Lorre.
Huh.
It was in 1956, I want to say, TV production, and it was. I want to say Gordon Scott, but I know that's not right.
Gordon Scott, same guy that played Tarzan?
I want to say that, but I know it's not right. Gordon something or other. He was the curator of the hotel in The Shining with Nicholson.
Oh, yeah. No, anyway.
You know the face, but
yeah, I can't get the name.
Yeah, he played Bond.
Huh. Hey, have you seen the? I think it was a People magazine I was looking at in some office or barbershop or something, and they had the first photographs of Ben Affleck as Batman.
Oh yeah, I saw those.
Did they have him bulked out in a padded suit or something?
No, part of that's him.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. You know, I really disagreed with that casting, but when I saw the picture, I was like, well, you know, I suppose that'll work. As you know, I would have done Liev Schreiber in it. But.
Yeah. Well, I definitely would have liked to see Liev Schreiber. Maybe they can correct that mistake later, but...
Well, you know, as time marches on, he becomes less likely to play it.
Right, but I mean, you know, hurry up and get him in there while you can.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm torn about this latest Batman versus Superman thing. It's something that all the comic book nerds that, you know, love both series have been looking for a long time. And I even like the idea of it. You know, I don't follow comics particularly, but I like the idea of it. The problem is that we're talking about it as a sequel to the shittiest Superman movie ever made.
Yeah.
And you're putting Affleck as Batman.
I know. It sounds like they're dooming it to failure. But I guess for me, if provided that Batman doesn't get his hands on kryptonite, how do you beat Superman? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He could burn you from a mile away with his eyes.
Right.
So,
right. Or at some point, are they going to team up and go against somebody else? Because I know that there's two other bad guys that they've thrown into the mix for a fight.
Well, that's the only way they can do it. They can probably have them somehow work out a draw, or, and I have no idea what the storyline is, but, or it can be Batman saving Superman from some bad guy with kryptonite. But for an actual Batman versus Superman, to me, like I say, take kryptonite out of the equation and it's going to be Superman all day long.
Right.
Unless it was Liev Schreiber, and then then he's got a shot.
Yeah. Well, Schreiber, I think, has been a strong actor for a long time, and it got it's right back into older movies. The Manchurian Candidate.
Well, which one? I mean, the one you liked with Frank, and then
The Disaster, which was the remake.
yeah.
And that was executive produced by Tina Sinatra, Frank's daughter.
Yeah. Well, we've got the Manchurian Candidate in office now, so. Yeah, okay, it's thin ice. We're going to have to walk on that.
Yeah, you never know if the NSA is going to be catching on to us.
Oh, you do know. You do know, because that's what they do now.
Yeah, I'm just trying not to incriminate myself at the same time. Excuse me. I was going to say the Sinatra Manchurian Candidate I liked, but Schreiber I thought did a good job in the Lawrence Harvey.
Well, what I think you were the one that told me that wasn't Hope Lang, Angela Lansbury, who played the mother of the Manchurian Candidate, was actually like 2 years younger than him or something at the time, wasn't it? Maybe 2 years older.
Age.
Same age. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So, interesting piece of casting on that part. And she was able to pull it off without a big makeup job.
Yeah, no, they didn't put it right in the temples.
Yeah.
And then the Schreiber one, there was Denzel Washington was in the Sinatra role, and Meryl Streep was the Angela Lansbury part.
Yeah.
I can't say it's a bad performance by any of them. I just think that the movie ought not to have been renewed. You had it perfect the first time. Why do it again?
Well, I mean, look at when De Palma redid Psycho, a frame-by-frame copy. I mean, was that necessary?
Yeah, well, the only thing you got out of it was Anne Haitian's butthole, but that's another story.
Well, yeah, before it became Ellen DeGeneres' plaything, but I don't know that like I say, that Psycho that he did didn't serve a lot of purpose. I don't think.
No, nor The Haunting.
Well, although who's the guy that did the Anthony Perkins part in that? Went on to do a bunch of comedies now and all. He did the movie. Was it Swingers? I can't remember who it was. I can see his face. I can't get his name. Go to the Bible. Take a look here.
As I pull out Larry Holman's book, it does.
Yeah.
14th edition.
Yeah.
So
see if I can think of it before then. This is going to be really boring to listen to. And somewhere somebody's listening to this screaming the name, but unfortunately we can't hear it because you're not here.
Yeah. Could you scream a little louder, please?
Yeah, and backwards in time so we could pick it up.
Yeah, Psycho, here it is. Okay, Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn. There you go.
Yeah. And Viggo Mortensen was in it. And Julianne Moore.
But who played? That was it. Was it Macy that played the part of the detective?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's right.
But again, a decent cast in retrospect. They've all thankfully moved on to better acting. Well, Vince Vaughn kind of just floats, but.
Oh yeah, but he did good in a movie called Deliberate Man. And it's about a guy.
Is that the one where he's got all these, he was a sperm donor or something? Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good.
Well,
it's worth catching if you find it on.
Yeah, if you find it on cable, I suppose. And there's nothing else on.
Well, I mean, Mom and I watched it with both Farrell and Jody.
Oh, well, okay. There you go.
The Psycho that everybody should say is 1960s.
It's such a classic. It's such a classic.
Let me ask you, what do you think of the re-rating stuff? Does that drive you as nuts as it drives me?
Well, my first experience with the re-rating thing was when I saw Midnight Cowboy. Of course, John Boy was a kid, but when I saw Midnight Cowboy when it first came out, it was rated X,
right.
And X was saved for porno, and then what is it now, like a PG?
R.
It's okay, so it went to an R, but at the time it was. They thought that was the kiss of death, and if I'm not mistaken, it was like the first X-rated movie to win an Academy Award, and I don't remember what the award was for. I don't know if Hoffman got it for playing Ratso Rizzo, or if it was for something like...
I think it was Voight that got it.
Well, it very well could have been Voight. It very well could have been Voight. I don't know what the award was. Maybe it was the Nielsen singing "Everybody's Talking at Me." He could have picked it up for the song. I'm not sure. But to this day, whenever I hear that song, I've got the image of them on that bus.
Here we are, Midnight Cowboy. Won Best Picture, Director, Screenplay.
Well, I guess that was probably the big thing, to have an X-rated movie win Best Picture. At the time was... Of course, Debbie Does Dallas was big around then too, but I don't think it was a contender at the Oscars.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing that.
There's no reason to see it. No reason to see it.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen the movie anyway. But then again, this is coming from the guy that sits down and puts on every bad horror film that's on TV.
Well, hey, you can't tell if they're bad if you don't see them.
But I mean, some of them, like, the descriptions, like, dude, what about this?
Oh, well, it just goes to show you that...
Frank or vampires.
Well, Hollywood, everybody's prone to making mistakes. Hollywood maybe more than other groups. When you look at some of the stuff that gets made, it's like, wait a minute, I write stuff that's better than that. And how come they're not making my movies?
Yeah, I gotta be careful throwing.
I know, you don't want to throw barbs out there, but you look at some of the stuff that gets made, and it's just incredible that they would actually spend their money on that. And sometimes they get, fairly decent actors to be in just the most horrible scripts. So you wonder if it's, did the kid need braces or something, and they did it for money, or...
Right, like Dennis Hopper in Hellride.
Well, yeah, or any of Nick Cage's movies after leaving Las Vegas. Ghost Rider, really? A contender on that one, Nick?
Yeah, Bring Out the Dead.
Well, that was just a manic movie,
Yeah. It was 2 hours of what the hell.
Oh, yeah. Who's the guy that co-starred in that with him? He's the guy that wound up with Charlie Sheen's former madam.
Charlie Sheen's former madam?
Well, Charlie Sheen, remember Charlie Sheen went through the whole thing about there was a madam in Hollywood, Heidi Fleiss, and Charlie Sheen was apparently a customer of hers or her house, and then the guy that was in that movie with Nick Cage wound up becoming her boyfriend, I guess you could say, after Charlie Sheen moved on to other things.
Let's see here. It says directed by Martin Scorsese, Nicolas Cage, Patricia Arquette, John Goodman, Ving Rhames, Mark Anthony.
I'm thinking of... No. Maybe I'm imagining it. I thought it was there was a guy in there.
Tom Sizemore?
That's him. Tom Sizemore, yep. Tom Sizemore. That's the guy that wound up, and as it turns out, he wound up, getting on dope and doing drugs and drinking and beating her and doing all kinds of weird things. So he proved himself to be similar to well, there you go. That's her taste in guys, I guess. The Charlie Sheen, Tom Sizemore, get loaded and beat me up.
Or Rihanna and Chris Brown.
Well, she keeps going back to him. That's her own fault at this point. The first time she's a victim, second time she's an idiot. So.
Yeah, well, they're broken up again.
But TMZ loves her. You know, I mean, she's like a guy's woman. You know, slapping guys on the back and drinking beers and paddleboarding, and going to strip joints. And, yeah.
Well, we were way far afield from the notes here.
Oh.
No worries. It's all good.
Okay.
I guess we can jump from that in an awkward transition to R-rated films.
Well, we were borderline on R-rated films, but okay. What about them?
Well, you know.
When did you start getting introduced to them? I guess is the.
We could go there. I was just going to throw in one last comment on the classics.
Okay, sure.
Finish that off first. But, Jack Benny, Bob Hope, Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, these were all things that you introduced me to as I was younger. And I enjoyed them, and as I got older, I just started expanding out and seeing more of that stuff. And even into college, I was still seeing Jack Benny's that I hadn't seen before.
Well, you used to just love to laugh at stuff on TV. And, you know, that's why the comedies have always played such a big part in your, TV watching experience, whether it was Abbott and Costello or the Stooges or the Marx Brothers, and then, you know, later on getting to the, not necessarily the slapstick kind of stuff, but more of the intellectual humor, which is the Jack Benny kind of thing, where there's a lot of subtleties and it's a lot of presentation work.
Dangerfield.
Well, I mean, Dangerfield's just funny stuff. I mean, that's just quick-witted, and then, so yeah, that was something that was fun for you to watch and fairly harmless, and I think that helped develop your sense of humor and to see what these guys were saying back then, and have it be funny without swearing, there was, at some rare occasions, it was sexual innuendo, but it was never really upfront, and certainly because it had a double entendre, you could pass it off on a little kid, and then as they watched it again years later, if they watched it again years later, then they picked it up and went, oh, so they could have been referring to that. So, that was all good stuff to have a young movie enthusiast watch, because it forms a lot of like the baseline for comedies that came down the road after that too, so.
Yeah, that's one of the things I kind of pride myself on, is being able to not get pigeonholed by people in terms of my sense of humor, because people say, you don't know that plain stuff. Well, no, I like George Carlin too.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've been exposed to a pretty broad base, and again, a lot of it being self-taught. I gave you, kind of I put you on the path of the fundamentals, but then, from that you pick and chose what you liked, and went down a lot of those different paths with different comedians and entertainers. Red Skelton. I don't think I ever really introduced you to any Red Skelton stuff, other than saying, but because by that time it was like, you ought to check out this guy, and so on your own, you kind of got into the Red Skelton stuff. And Red Skelton, I always thought, was very unique. And aside from having his own show back when I was a kid, he just had a way about him that would touch your heart, especially with closing his show with "Good Night and God Bless." I always remember that, and him doing the goofy stuff with the Gertrude and Heathcliff, seagulls, and the hobo, and yeah. I mean, he was a pretty broad-based entertainer in that regard, having his own show, and Jack Benny had his own show. That was all stuff that was from my childhood that my mother turned me on to. So that was kind of like, through me, my mother's gift to you.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate it. I love all those things.
Yeah.
The Red Skelton thing, I just want to tag up what you said about the "Good Night and May God Bless" thing. The reason why he would say "Good night and may God bless," this according to him, is that he felt like he didn't want to be trying to tell God what to do. He felt that it wasn't his place, so he said, "May God bless," as in like, "May He be kind to you,"
right,
may this
right.
happen to you.
Right. Everything is according to God's will, as opposed to, Red Skelton dictated to God what he should and shouldn't do.
Right. But that's the other interesting part. If you ever look into it, is that Skelton had a very sad life.
Yeah.
His son died of leukemia at the age of 9, just shy of being 10. His first wife committed suicide 10 years to the, or 20 years to the day that their son died because she had cancer and was going to die anyway. So, I mean, look at the stuff he was able to crank out despite all of that.
Well, I guess that's the strength of his character, as in all of those circumstances, as well as the power of comedy. I mean, it's something that has transcended the ages, and it helps people through very difficult times, and it helps good times become better. So it's one of those kind of human strengths that is always enjoyable when you see it in other people.
Right. Okay, now let's jump into the R-rated stuff. Some of the early stuff I remember, there was the Terminators, obviously, we can talk about that, but there was also Enemy at the Gates, was an early R that I remember going to see.
Yeah.
I remember in, this is one of the reasons why I said the re-rating thing. Psycho is now R.
Well, that was that was part of my colossal screw-up. Is that what we're getting to here? On Martha's Vineyard?
Well, I wasn't going to necessarily bring up painful memories.
Well, I mean, it was just a colossal screw-up that, but I had promised you that you had wanted to see it, and, Mom said, no, you're not going to see it, and I was weak, and you were persistent, and it was a bad combination while we were on vacation together. So you wound up seeing Jaws and Titanic, which was probably a bad idea before the ferry ride to Martha's Vineyard, or after the ferry ride. But we got a chance to see Jaws, and then we visited the areas on Martha's Vineyard where it was filmed. So that was kind of fun. I don't recall you being anxious to get in the water there, but...
but it was fun meeting Captain Porky.
Right, at Porky's, right? Yeah. Porky's Bait Shop. So there was, let's see, the Terminator. Was the Terminator on that trip?
No, Terminator was when I was alive.
So that was Jaws, Psycho, Titanic.
That was it.
What else did I screw up on? So just those three?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when your mom said, "How was your vacation?" What was the first thing you said?
Great, I saw these movies.
Yeah. Shortly after that, Mom picked out Mystic, and we had a dog join the family.
Yeah, so you had a one fellow for about 10 years.
Well, I was in the doghouse. Why not have a companion?
Yeah. Other than Maggie.
Right.
Maggie being my border collie. And Mystic being my mom's dog. But I mean, I remember one of the things that you said to me. This is again, maturity film. True Lies was an early one too.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah, that was Jamie Lee Curtis' famous scene in that.
Yeah. And the banter between Tom Arnold and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
That was cracked up. The Godfathers, remember those?
Oh, who doesn't?
Right. Yeah. Well, the thing I remember you saying to me is, don't ever go against the family. and that was the movie that you showed at the time of that.
Yeah.
But
I told Mario Puzo it would be a good line to incorporate, and he could use it in the movie if he wanted.
Yeah.
And by no means were I thinking of you as Fredo. So.
No, I'm sure you weren't thinking about me as Sonny either.
Well, it was Al Pacino, I think, is the character that said that. But.
I guess that would make you Brando, right?
Well, yeah, I look like Brando now. So.
Yeah, we won't go there.
Well, he was thinner back then. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm not walking myself off of that.
No,
I can see the water from where I am.
Let's move on.
But I just remember liking those, and it was at a time when most other people my age weren't seeing those, but I kept coming across them in all my readings of movies and people's careers and stuff.
Well, those are really modern day classics, and you know, I remember seeing Godfather 2 in the theaters, and I had previously seen Mean Streets and Bang the Drum Slowly, and never really thought much about it until I saw De Niro in Godfather 2, and I was like, oh man, this guy's going to be huge.
And sure enough.
Well, yeah, there you go. But he was, that was a great recognition of talent there. And I find it kind of funny that De Niro got discovered after Pacino's talent got discovered. So
and they didn't even want, the studio didn't even want Pacino for the movie. They said, no, he's too young.
Yeah, well, and James Caan actually tried out for the Michael Corleone part.
Right.
And they put him as Sonny, which I think was a better fit anyway. But.
Right. But I mean, I think they were talking about like Dustin Hoffman or something like that originally, and then it went over to.
Then Dustin decided to do Ishtar with Beatty, and we know how that worked out.
And that was in the 80s too, no less. My birth year, 87. Go figure.
Yeah.
Sorry, fellas. And that's on Blu-ray. Talk about a waste of.
Yeah, I wouldn't. No, you don't.
So I guess we can say safely that as the years went on, Disney films became less, and I went into more of the dramas and comedies.
We could say that, but that's not entirely true. I think what's happened is that might have been the seeds from which the tree grew, but and the tree now has many branches, in terms of your experience and the movies that you've seen, but you still get a kick out of even the old Disney stuff. Let alone, when stuff comes out now, it's you and your mother that wind up going to it because it's just not my cup of tea. But you still enjoy that type of movie and that kind of product. It may not be a Disney movie, but if it's along those lines of what we throw into the bucket of Disney movies, it's still something you enjoy.
Yeah, but you did like Maleficent, right?
I did like Maleficent, but there was a time when I could have watched Angelina Jolie just read the phone book and been entertained. I thought it was well done. It was a real interesting twist on an old story, and that's what I found really fascinating about it, because it fills in a lot of the gaps that were never really explained in the original stories, and I think it's a much more believable and palatable story. It's a freaking fairy tale, so how much can you believe in it? But it's a better explanation. It's a better story. They took a story and improved on it, which is not Hollywood's strength necessarily.
Yeah. I have to tell this joke because it's.
Go ahead.
Every woman that I know.
Is it rich?
Well, there's that. But no, I was going to say that every woman that I know, in my age group, approximately speaking, all love the princesses in the Disney films. And
all, not even women in your age group, all from the time they're little girls. I mean, you look at the way people talk about their daughters, their young daughters. She's my little princess, and what's the thing they dress them up for at Halloween? It's not just because it's convenient. I mean, it's nice.
Right. Well, I'm going to argue about it with the statement, but to me, I think it's hysterical because nowadays, you can hear a guy say, "Oh yeah, she's a little princess" or something about their daughter that's being like "gippy, gippy, gippy," all that jazz.
Well, yeah.
And as I was leading into it, the women in my age group still like to be called a princess, but I don't necessarily think that they connect the bitch factor.
Well, it all depends on how you're using the word princess.
Right.
I think, well, yeah, she's a little princess. If it's a parent saying it about their own kid, obviously they're being sarcastic about it. But princess is. I
guess I had fun with that W.C. Fields delivery.
That's more of a fault of modern parenting than it is from the evolution of what princess means.
I know it's like the old George Carlin play with words, come up with stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the other day, my friend Thomas is getting married in a few weeks, and Mom said to me the other day, are they actually getting married in evening class? I said, no, we'd be all wet.
Make for an interesting time, though.
Yeah. What I thought, bro, I was going the lane.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, great picture.
Well, hey, if you wanted to have a high mass, maybe you could get somebody to park the waters and stay dry.
Get old Chucky back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think he'd remember what to do, though.
Oh, well, the NRA could use him again. So.
That's true. Anyway, yeah, I guess I do see some modern Disney stuff. Yeah, I still want to show you the Saving Mr. Banks.
All right. Well, we'll see that. Maybe not right this minute. We'll see it. Yeah.
No, it isn't right this minute, but I'd like to show that to you because I think you'd like it.
Okay.
It's very solid. Like, oh, yeah, this is what you gotta see, but this is what you gotta see.
But I mean, and that was actually, I think, that was maybe your first introduction to the wonders of Dick Van Dyke. Was Mary Poppins, right?
Yeah, it was. And from there, I went to the Dick Van Dyke Show, which I complete Blu-ray set up. Love it.
Yeah.
And I liked him in all the other movies that he's done. He was without
even as late as the Night in the Museum stuff.
Right, and the newest one with the late Mickey Rooney, may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Those guys were great, and Van Dyke is without a doubt one of the best physical comedians ever. Hands down.
But it's so underrated on his resume. And when people think of Dick Van Dyke, they don't. They sometimes think of actually. Everybody I know, and it could have been because, everybody was in love with Laura Petrie when I was growing up, but so they remember the Dick Van Dyke Show, and they think of him as just a comedian, but he was a song and dance man, and again, that puts me back to like today's equivalent is Hugh Jackman, except Dick Van Dyke, I don't think could have ever done any of the action stuff that Hugh Jackman can do. And he certainly was never as strong a leading man character. Could you have pictured Dick Van Dyke doing Les Mis? No.
But he was great in Bye Bye Birdie, and
but those were lighthearted musicals back then. Now the musicals are a little bit heavier, and but that's, Andrew Lloyd Webber's work, doing the Phantom of the Opera and taking stuff that has dark elements to it and putting it to music. He took the death of Christ and turned it into a, Jesus Christ Superstar, and that started the ball down the hill. I mean, that Christ of what, early 70s,
yeah.
Early to mid 70s, yeah. And that was huge, and that's what started him. And he was very prolific in terms of writing his rock opera stuff.
Right.
I think he inspired the Who to do Quadrophenia and that kind of thing, and Tommy, and so yeah, he was actually the one that started that whole thing. And then as that gained in popularity, much the way it happened with Jersey Boys, we got to make a movie out of this,
right.
And so they did.
Yeah, I guess to me, I'm curious about some of the stage stuff that I'm seeing coming down the pike now. Like, there's the Long Thread and Lewis Nutty Professor musical, and they've got Rocky the musical out now that's getting rave reviews.
Well, I suppose I can see that. I envision that being kind of a West Side Story type thing, in terms of moving the action along with music. I don't think it's going to be. I think it'll be very entertaining. I don't expect it to be as engaging as Rocky was, because Rocky the movie was unique and it's the underdog story, and everybody loved that. And it came along at the right time, and certainly did wonders for Stallone.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know where we're headed with a lot of these musicals. But look at Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right.
I mean, Christ, how long has that been around? And it was the movie that predated the play or the musical, and
that was back in the 70s.
Yeah, and that movie became so popular. I don't know if you've ever been to one of the old-time Rocky Horror Picture Show movies where people bring umbrellas and squirt guns and...
No, I haven't been to one, but I've seen it used as a plot point in both the movie and the book of Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it looks like it could be fun.
Oh, it's a ball. It's like any cult movie when you go to see it. If you go and see the old black and white Romero Night of the Living Dead stuff, I mean, that's classic. Of course, zombies are real popular now, so it's not quite as much fun as it was when it was a much more elite group of people that would dress up like zombies to go to the movies. Now people dress up like zombies to watch Walking Dead in their living room by themselves and their collection of 57 cats. So, times have changed a lot with it, but getting back to the idea of these musicals coming out based on what we know as familiar storylines, I'm a little doubtful on the Rocky thing and how that's going to go. But
I mean, so far it's doing well and people like it, so.
And that's all that matters. Again, follow the money. As long as it's selling tickets, everybody will think it's great.
Right. Yeah. I think Lewis. And this is the only time
I was really trying to get away from the whole Lewis discussion. I thought I could sidetrack us from that, but
it's just one more point, and that's that I think he got screwed in terms of getting his thing out there because the guy that wrote the music before it died. So I don't see it coming.
If anybody deserved to get screwed, it's Lewis.
Yeah.
It's Lewis. So.
Yeah. I
mean, that's a happy note as far as I'm concerned. Should we end it here, or?
We'll be ending this very shortly.
Oh, okay.
But I was going to say that in terms of that, for anybody that doesn't understand why I'm agreeing with my dad on Lewis getting screwed, refer to other podcasts on my YouTube channel for this.
There you have it.
Yeah. You'll find it in there. It's one of the Christmas episodes. Good luck. So, anyway, let's talk Sherlock Holmes for a minute, shall we?
Okay.
Okay. So, you started me off. This is back when we lived in Southborough. You started me off with, I remember, it was Video Horizons, I think it was.
Yep.
And
Video Buttheads, as he later became known, but yeah.
But Hound of the Baskervilles, The Woman in Green, Terror by Night, Dressed to Kill, Spider-Woman, and Scarlet Claw were the ones that they had. And I remember working my way through those and loving every one of them. And now, years later, I've got the complete collection on Blu-ray.
You actually, very early on in that, once you got interested in Sherlock Holmes, someplace or somewhere we got you the complete collection of Sherlock Holmes at the time. And not only were you watching them, but you were reading them. You became a very avid reader, which, and again, follow these threads, or the branches and how they go on. That got you into the Beekeeper's Apprentice stuff of recently. Yeah, and as well as the exposure to the actors. I know you never really got into too much of Basil Rathbone as the Sheriff of Nottingham with the Errol Flynn Robin Hood, but Basil Rathbone became one of your favorites with some of the early work he did on Poe, with the Edgar Allan Poe stuff, and then from there that kind of drew you into the Boris Karloff, Peter Lorre, Christopher Lee, and that whole Hammer House series stuff, and of course the Vincent Price stuff. And so, it's you in every case where I've handed you a package of seeds, you've made it grow into a beautiful garden.
Thanks. Wasn't sure I responded to that for a second. Considered I have a green thumb in real life, but anyway, I say that sarcastically, of course. The interesting part to me is that I am now the biggest sucker for anything Sherlock Holmes, anything Jack the Ripper. And I'm now eagerly anticipating a movie called Mr. Holmes, which is based on the book.
Is that the one with Ian McClellan coming out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and based on the book, A Slight Trick of the Mind. That's one of the books I'm going to be reading, because I want to see.
Well, I mean, remember we were kind of scratching our heads about the Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock Holmes thing? I thought those were great. I thought Jude Law did a real nice interpretation of Watson. I thought Robert Downey Jr. did an interesting spin on Sherlock Holmes. So yeah, I mean, there's been some good stuff that's come out of that as well.
I think it's going to be great, and I look forward to it. And I hope they make another Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I mean, it's a matter of if he'll want to do the part the third time, but the hell, if he's doing Iron Man so much, why not do another Sherlock?
Right, although he's said that he's not going to do any more standalone Iron Man. He's not going to...
the ensemble thing?
Yeah, just as part of the Avengers stuff.
Yeah.
But...
Well, even then, when they didn't get him for the Captain America stuff, it didn't matter. The character itself, the Tony, whatever the hell his name is.
Tony Stark.
Yeah, is a strong enough character to continue on with somebody else who can play in that role, as long as it's not Ben Affleck.
Yeah, right. Right. But as Affleck goes, he has some movies where he's okay, but I would never put him in a super hero.
I thought he's. I personally think he's a better director than an actor.
I agree with you.
And he's done wonders for his brother Casey's career. He did
Gone Baby
some
Gone.
good stuff with the town and all that.
Yeah, the town, Gone Baby Gone.
Gone Baby Gone was great for his brother.
Yeah.
He did a real nice job with that.
Yeah, and he also did well with Argo.
Yeah, but again, he's not my favorite actor, so.
Oh, well, yeah. Well,
he did okay with the movie, but
I meant as a director, he did good.
Well, as a director, he did well with that. It's just, I'd hate to see him try and become like the serious Woody Allen, where I want to be in everything I direct, and
Yeah, that's
gets old.
Yeah, to use a song title, Bullet to the Head.
Now, there's a movie I love. I mean, I like that, but it's an old guy's movie, so I guess that's where I'm at nowadays.
Well, I guess I'm pretty old, because I enjoy it.
Well, you've always been an old soul, just a young body. So.
Yes, I've also been an old heel, but that's another story. Sorry, gotta resist that one. I guess let me ask you. This is your first podcast. Would you say that this has been okay for you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're always aware that you're being recorded, so you choose your words. Or you try and choose your words carefully. But it's good that you've kept it in a very conversational tone. I appreciate you giving me an idea of what it was going to be like. I don't know if I'll ever be invited back to the show, but nonetheless,
I love to do more of these videos.
But it's been an interesting experience, and because I knew really nothing about it, I got into the idea of it's going to be like just a radio interview kind of thing, and it's been more fun than I thought.
Let's do it again sometime very soon.
All right.
Hell, we can even do one about Jersey Boys.
A whole one about Jersey Boys? I'd have to see it again. Well, maybe when it comes to video or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
But, I mean, if there's other ones we can do in the intro.
Oh, we'll figure something out, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's what she said. Anyway, with that, thank you for tuning in and listening to this. I'm Nate Taves.
Well, folks, thanks for listening, and I hope we haven't bored you too badly. Thanks.
And your name is?
Oh, Andy Taves.
And that's our episode for today, tonight, this evening, yesterday, tomorrow, and tune
for
to the
foreseeable future for right now.
Yeah, tune to the next one to find out what it is.